Tonight, the solar push marches on in Port Augusta. How soon can the city shine? And works to stem flood worries at a popular Mid-North reservoir.
This is Southern Cross News with Tim Hatfield.
Good evening. But first tonight, the gravely ill father of missing Port Lincoln woman Susan Goodwin has appealed for anyone with information about his daughter to come forward. Don Goodwin is currently undergoing treatment for lung cancer and is desperate to find anyone who might know where her body is or who's behind her suspected murder.
A final wish from a dying father.
I only wish that they'd please help us and come forward.
Don Goodwin is clinging to hope that someone knows what happened to his daughter. The disappearance of Susan has been a heavy burden his family has carried for the last 15 years. The gravely ill father, desperate for answers.
It's been terrible, since because it's been on my mind all the time, day and night. You never get over it.
Don is currently undergoing treatment for lung cancer, his latest adversity after a string of heartbreaking family tragedies, including a devastating car crash that claimed his other children.
I lost my son and two daughters, and Susie got out. Her and another passenger got out.
Susan would then disappear over a decade later, her presumed murder remaining a mystery for a further 15 years. But police believe they're now on the brink of solving the cold case.
We have received in excess of 40 calls with information. A lot of that information continues to be followed up, and there are certainly positive lines of inquiry.
Major crime going to unprecedented lengths and resources to find Susan's killers, even offering reduced sentences to Port Lincoln prisoners who provide details, a move which has yielded results.
There is some valuable information that has come in, and again, detectives from Task Force Lincoln have been here in Port Lincoln this week following up those leads.
Police are continuing to urge anyone who has the smallest piece of information on Susan's disappearance to make contact with Crime Stoppers. A substantial reward is on offer. Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
Port Augusta could be positioning itself to become Australia's solar capital with several solar power projects in the pipeline. Campaigners met with the Premier today to discuss the solar thermal power plan, while private investors visited the city to discuss the Bungala solar PV project.
After receiving support in the upper house yesterday, solar thermal power campaigners today presented a petition of support to the Premier. At the same time, European investors visited Port Augusta to discuss a solar PV project to be built just outside of the city.
They've done this purely with no government funding. It's all private investment, which is a really good illustration that the rest of the world is actually looking at investing, not just in Australia, but investing in Port Augusta.
This photovoltaic solar power station will be the largest in the Southern Hemisphere, creating 400 jobs during construction, 20 ongoing, and the build is expected to start as soon as August.
So this is a really good statement. We've talked about renewable energy and positioning ourselves as the capital for it. Well, we've certainly positioned ourselves as the capital. In fact, we positioned ourselves well in the Southern Hemisphere, noting that this will be the largest in the Southern Hemisphere. It will be massive.
Mayor Johnson says while the solar thermal and solar PV projects are different, they will complement each other with the possibility of attracting more.
We'll have probably 4 or 5 good projects, which is good at spreading the risk. As opposed to having one big provider for employment, we're actually spreading it right across 4 or 5 different industries, which is quite good and sort of buffers or drought-proofs us a little bit into the future.
Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
A decision on who'll own Arium's Australian operations is expected by the end of June. Quartermentha and investment bank Morgan Stanley have begun the process of evaluating the bids of Liberty House and POSCO. They're expected to work with both the Commonwealth and state governments and the Creditors Committee. Meanwhile, the State Treasurer Tom Koutsantonis has stepped up the pressure on the federal government, once again calling on the Commonwealth to make a multi-million-dollar commitment to modernise the ageing Whyalla Steelworks. He says the funding is needed to shore up jobs at the steelworks and to support the city. Recent figures show over $70 million was injected into Broken Hill's economy last year through tourism. A local operator says the city's heritage listing has played a big part in the boost.
153,000 people stayed overnight in the Silver City in 2016.
The increase in tourism was last year, 12% on last year, which is a good indication that Broken Hill as a destination is getting recognised.
Overnight expenditure in Broken Hill was up 14% from 2 years ago. Mr Kai says the publicity received from Broken Hill's heritage listing has been a big contributor to the spike.
What I think we have to do now is actually collaborate as a community, get all of our businesses together, and I don't just mean the tourism business, I mean every business that you have.
A wide variety of events on offer throughout the year continues to make Broken Hill a major attraction in the far west.
It's a multitude of different aspects of that. The heritage listing is one, the art is one, the people, I think, is our greatest saleable point. So it's all of the above.
Looking ahead, Mr Kai says it's not just about attracting more people to the city, but encouraging those who do visit to extend their stay and improve on the $75 million spent in 2016.
Just imagine what would happen if we doubled it. You know, how more affluent the community would feel, and how we would actually then start to grow tourism and start to grow our self-reliance, and also how do we start to create more employment.
Patrick Roinke, Southern Cross News.
The historic Nelshaby Reservoir is causing serious damage to neighbouring properties due to regular flooding. A meeting was held last night to discuss a management plan set out by the council in Port Pirie to ensure minimal overflow of water during the wet season.
The Nelshaby Reservoir is popular for tourists and recreational use, and the Port Pirie Council is now moving forward with management strategies to help nearby property owners.
The issues around the floodplains of Napaby, Nelshaby and Warnertown, and the need to develop a management plan to help educate property owners into how they need to manage the seasonal watercourses that run through their land.
The main issues at the moment is the high water levels and the integrity of the dam's wall.
The flooding at the moment around the reservoir is mainly associated with the springs and seepage. So at the moment I would describe that as being nuisance flooding.
The reservoir was gifted to the council in the 90s and has caused headaches for locals for years.
I guess over probably the last 10 or 15, perhaps 20 years, there's been an issue to some residents.
The strategies discussed at last night's meeting aim to preserve the reservoir.
It's important in the longer term, though, that the reservoir is well managed so there isn't a more serious problem in the future.
The idea of reusing the water was thrown into the mix last night, and the council is now calling for public input onto the ongoing problem. Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
Well, stay with us. Still to come in tonight's local news. Port Lincoln locals urged to have their say on the council's next business plan. The details ahead. Welcome back. Port Lincoln Council is still seeking public consultation for their annual business plan. The plan includes a rise in council rates due to the leisure centre development and the London Street Bridge expansion.
The council is urging residents to have their say about the next Port Lincoln budget.
It's still out for public consultation. We've got a good number of people filling out the questionnaire and giving us some direction as to where the priorities are.
Homeowners are being asked to shell out a slight increase in rates due to new infrastructure costs. The council eager for some community feedback.
The public consultation is open until June 15. And then after that, before the end of the year, council will need to sign off on the budget measures.
Part of the budget has been dedicated to the London Street Bridge expansion. The Mayor confident the detours are working.
Yes, there's some disruption, but people are giving themselves a bit more time to get their kids to school or to take a different route around that I guess, problem at the moment.
The council also experiencing a slight reroute, going from 10 councillors to 9.
We asked, is it okay if we reduce the number from 10 elected members to 9? And the community said, yeah, they're fine with that.
In the meantime, the Mayor is looking to the community to participate in this year's charity concert.
Once a year, I have a Mayor's charity concert. And I've only got 3 rules. They're only allowed to perform 2 songs or acts or a short time. They've got to do it for nothing because it's a charity event, and they have to be locals.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
Students from Ayr High School in Whyalla opened their doors last night for school tours and a careers expo. The school says it's important that kids are given the opportunity to quiz employers and develop an idea of their future pathways.
Time is ticking for Ayr High students who will soon need to make a decision on whether uni or an apprenticeship is their favoured career path. A careers expo was held at the school last night, so students can get planning.
Today it's highlighted to the students what they potentially would like to do when they finish school and the importance of SAFE and a potential ATAR pathway into university.
We've been talking to students one-on-one for the last couple of months and preparing them for today.
The school also opened its doors to showcase its successful vocational training programs, which Ms Skinner says offers great opportunities.
Students can do a range of courses that will not only make them job ready once they've finished high school, but also can assist with their ATAR.
Students Alicia Renton and David Dixon are both set in their career path. Alicia wants to become a nurse or paramedic, while David is interested in psychology. Both say the expo was a good chance for them to understand the next step.
To see all the opportunities we have here in Whyalla and outside of Whyalla are a very good experience to help an individual.
It's good to have people coming to us, talking to us about the different things that we can be doing.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Reconciliation Week continues in Port Augusta, the city hosting a forum with both Indigenous and non-Indigenous speakers. It was to engage the community and inspire action for further recognition for Aboriginal Australians.
The first of its kind in Port Augusta and some of the first steps to making change. Port Augusta today held its first Reconciliation Forum as a part of National Reconciliation Week.
I picked up this computer and dropped it. I said, sorry. And just drop it, but it's still working. I pick it up and drop it again, 2 or 3 times. Am I really sorry? But the government can continue to develop policies that keep affecting our people.
Speakers at the event included recognised SA's CEO Mark Waters and Adnyamathanha Elder Vince Coulthard.
It's got to be more than pomp and ceremony, it's got to have heart. But to do that, we've got to acknowledge ourselves, Aboriginal people, and the victims and those that, oppress the victims, got acknowledgement to move forward.
Even younger members of the community shared their experiences with racism and how they got through it. Mr Stewart says change in Australia and the community needs proper action to the level of a national treaty.
But I think we got to stop being conservative. We got to go true action like around the world.
I suppose everyone can just take away ways to move forward, suggestions, maybe think of their own ways to move forward and take the next steps of accepting the people in their community.
Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
A Port Pirie student has been given the rare opportunity to travel to Canberra to pursue her passion for politics and writing. Jordan Beveridge will spend a week in Parliament, where she hopes to widen her understanding of the political landscape.
Jordan Beveridge excels in communication and writing and is determined to help push issues like marriage equality through Parliament.
I love writing. I always have since I was little, and to me journalism is a way where I can get my point across and my opinion.
The John Pirie High School student has been awarded the opportunity to spend a week in the Parliamentary Press Gallery as part of the LIFT program.
It's something new, something I want to do, and it gives me a chance to talk to new people, meet new people and improve my own skills.
I think it's good because you see someone that's really talented and wants a big challenge and needs to grow as a writer and is ready to take it on, so I'm excited to see what she does.
But the trip won't come cheap.
There's a lot of costs involved, accommodation and flights, so we appreciate any help we can get.
So far, Jordan has opened a GoFundMe account for those wanting to help her reach her dreams.
Me and Mr Ladgrove are going to come up with some more ideas, but we've got a GoFundMe account at the moment.
And it won't be long before Jordan will look to replace one of us here at Southern Cross News. Keziah Sullivan, Southern Cross News.
Well, stay with us. When we return after the break, Trash to Treasure, counting down to one of Whyalla's most popular events, the Junk to Funk. Welcome back. Well, June is Give Me 5 for Kids Month at Southern Cross, and we're asking for your help to support sick kids. While our hospitals across the region do a great job, unfortunately, sometimes kids do need to go to Adelaide for specialist treatment, so the money raised will go to the Women's and Children's Hospital to ensure support for those country kids and their families when they need it most. You can help out by heading to the website giveme5forkids.com.au and make sure you select Spencer Gulf as your region, and we'll let you know about some more of what's happening this month down the track with the details on our Facebook page as well. Well, nominations for Whyalla's Junk to Funk Fashion Parade close soon, with proceeds to help support the Whyalla Special School. Organisers say there's only a few spots left in each category and those interested need to act fast.
It's one of Wyler's biggest events, giving locals a chance to show off their style and creativity, using recyclable materials to create fashion masterpieces. But those interested in entering Junk to Funk 2017 have just 4 days left to enter, with nominations due to close on Sunday.
The categories are limited, the registrations for categories are limited, so we're encouraging teams, if they're thinking about registering, to do it as soon as possible.
Nominations have been strong this year, with just a few spots left in the event, and the competition is as popular as ever, giving local people an opportunity to show off their creative side.
The teams that enter are really very passionate about it. It's the creative side that gets them involved, and it just keeps them coming back. They love it, the whole structure of the event too.
Funds raised go back into supporting the Wyler Special School purchase equipment, not covered by the Department of Education. Tricia says this year's money will focus on improving the resources available for their older students.
This year we'll be raising money for equipment to support the SACE students in their subjects that they're doing at the moment.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Oh, time now to see what's being reeled in around the Gulf. Here's this week's fishing tips.
Welcome another week around the Gulf fishing tips from Port Pirie. I have to start at Port Broughton at the moment. There's some great big bull salmon up there. Any of you guys could ever actually recognise what that is? That's actually a salmon rig that they use at Port Broughton. It looks like a bit of a fuel hose from these, so pretty unusual, but big fish to be caught on it. We go around to Port Pirie again. We're seeing some of those pan-sized snapper in the creek areas, and in the middle there's some nice big snapper to be had. Remember to burley up strong, you'll get yourself a good feed. There's a few garfish around as you want to get around in the evenings. You can wade in up to your knees, or you can turn around and use the boat and hook them up if you like.
G'day and welcome to this week's fishing tips from Port Augusta, Drill North. Well, as you can see behind me, stunning weather at the moment, so get out and enjoy it. It's King George whiting around at the moment. They're taking baits quite well, but also there are slime in some parts of the Gulf starting to build up there, so probably a couple of weeks and that'll really take effect. A lot of garfish down on the front of the shacks there, beautiful this time of year, just drifting along, using gents for bait for those. Squid, as you'd expect, are fairly well everywhere, and there have been some kingfish up around the powerhouse. That's all we have from the Jewel North.
Hi everyone, welcome to Wyler's Fishing Report this week. There's been some great snapper coming from the rip, both early in the morning and late afternoons on sun up and sun down. There's also been a few good fish down south as well. A lot of the fish down south have been a little bit in a smaller size bracket, but there's certainly some good fish around the areas. There's been some great King George whiting coming from down south of Wyler out towards Mount Young. There's been some really good numbers, guys, so now's the time to get stuck into those. And also squid have been pretty much plentiful from most directions of Wyler.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Well, locally the squid have been pretty good. Out around Boston Island, along the North Shore, and around into the proper. Has seen some good squid catches over the past week. Whiting have been okay, a little bit patchy but not too bad. There's been some nice salmon cruising around in the bay with fish up to 1 to 2 kilos, and quite a few salmon trout as well, so keep an eye out for those feeding salmon. And down on Port Lincoln's south coast has been reliable for a feed of big tommies, salmon trout and the occasional salmon. There have been some schools down there over the past week, but they haven't been within casting range. Moving over to Coffin Bay, there's been some whiting and snook and salmon trout within the bay system. Well, that's all for this week. We'll see you again with more fishing tips next week.
Well, stay with us after the break, the Friday forecast and the weekend weather. 17 was the top in Port Augusta, so quite mild. 16 for Wyler and Port Pirie. Port Lincoln today 18 with 14 in Broken Hill. The national satellite image shows our region fairly clear of any cloud cover for the time being. On the waters, the winds to 10 knots to the north tomorrow, seas to 1.5 metres and southerly, sunrise at 7:15. So another cool and frosty morning tomorrow ahead of a fine day. 18 for Port Augusta and Port Lincoln, Wyler and Port Pirie on 17, 15 in the Silver City. And the weekend is looking fairly pleasant too after the crisp mornings. 19 both days in Port Lincoln, Cleve on 19 and 18, Woodner 20 for Saturday and Sunday. 18 both days for Wyler with Port Augusta 19 degrees, Kadina on 17 and then 18. Port Pirie also heading for 18 both Saturday and on Sunday. In Clare looking at 16 to kick off the weekend, then 15 to wrap it all up. Broken Hill with 16 degrees both days. And that is the local news for this Thursday evening. Don't forget, as always, you can stay up to date with us on Facebook and on Twitter, and you can also catch past bulletins on our YouTube channel. We'll see you back here tomorrow night from 6:30. I'm Tim Hatfield from the Southern Cross News team. Have a good evening. Good night.